Some motorcycles are fast, some are powerful, but then there are the ones that go too far. Machines so aggressive, unstable, or overpowered they've earned a place in history for all the wrong reasons. These aren't just bikes, they're death wishes on two wheels. In this countdown, we're revealing the most dangerous motorcycles ever built. Number 12. Suzuki TL1000S. This wasn't just a sports bike, it was a beautiful disaster. Engineered to perform, but flawed in one fatal way. Released in the late 1990s, this V-twin-powered machine was designed to rival Italian giants in both power and handling. At its core sat a 996 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V-twin engine, pushing out 125 horsepower and 78 pound-feet of torque. With a curb weight of just 458 pounds, this thing could move. It was sharp, it was aggressive, and it was downright scary. The problem wasn't the engine. The power delivery was strong but manageable. The top speed of 160 miles per hour made it one of the fastest V-twin bikes of its era. No, the issue was hiding under the seat, an experimental rotary-style rear damper. Instead of using a traditional rear shock absorber, Suzuki tried to innovate. But what they ended up with was a setup that faded under heat, caused rear-end instability, and turned fast corners into dangerous guesses. Riders started reporting sudden tank slappers, violent side-to-side handlebar oscillations that could throw you off the bike in seconds. Even professional racers were caught off guard. The suspension couldn't handle aggressive riding, and the result was unpredictable behavior at high speed. Suzuki tried to fix it by adding a steering damper and issuing recalls, but the damage was already done. The TL1000S had earned its nickname, the Widowmaker. Despite having solid dual front disc brakes and a respectable 37 miles per gallon fuel economy, it was never trusted again. It became a cautionary tale, proof that one bad engineering call could ruin an otherwise legendary machine. Today you can find one on the used market for around $3,000 to $4,500 depending on condition, if you're brave enough to ride one. But if that was dangerous because of a flawed design, the next one was dangerous by design. Number 11. Bosshos V8. It rumbled like an earthquake and drew crowds like a carnival wherever it went, commanding attention before you even started the engine. The Bosshos V8 is not a motorcycle for the faint of heart. It is a muscle car engine strapped between two wheels and pointed at the horizon. Introduced in the early 1990s, the Bosshos redefined what too much looks like. Under the oversized fuel tank roared a 5,700 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled VE8 engine pulled directly from Chevrolet's small block lineup. Depending on the version, it made between 350 and 450 horsepower with a thunderous torque output of up to 450 pound-feet. Let that sink in. This was a bike with more power than most full-size trucks, and it weighed more than one, too. Tipping the scales at over 1,100 pounds fully loaded, the Bosshos was nearly double the weight of a typical sport bike. This was a motorcycle built for straight-line speed, not for turning, stopping, or surviving mistakes. Top speed hovered around 140 miles per hour, but just getting there felt like launching a land rocket. Handling was a joke. Cornering required advanced planning, and low-speed maneuvering felt like piloting a freight train with handlebars. Despite its twin front disc brakes and large rear disc, the stopping distance was enormous due to its sheer mass. Braking aggressively could easily upset the balance and cause a low-side crash. Fuel economy, forget about it. The Bosshos averaged just 20 miles per gallon, but none of that mattered to its fans. And if you wanted one new, you'd be dropping close to $60,000, not including custom upgrades. And speaking of overkill, imagine taking that madness off-road. No guesswork here, every bike on this list earned its place. If you appreciate real research over recycled hype, hit subscribe. Number 10. MV Agusta F4LH44. This is what happens when Formula One meets the motorcycle world and decides to throw caution to the wind. The MV Agusta F4LH44 is not just a superbike, it is a hand-built missile with styling sharper than a scalpel and performance figures that would scare even seasoned track riders. Born from a collaboration between MV Agusta and Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton, this machine does not whisper its power, it screams it. At its heart lies a 998 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled inline, 4-cylinder engine producing a staggering 212 horsepower and over 84 pound-feet of torque. Tipping the scales at just under 495 pounds wet, the power-to-weight ratio on the F4LH44 is enough to launch it past 190 miles per hour. But this is not just about speed, it is about how that speed is delivered. Power comes on instantly and violently with a throttle response that demands absolute focus and precision. A slight mistake, just a hair too much twist, and the rear wheel can break traction before the rider even realizes what happened. Its lightweight carbon fiber bodywork, race-tuned chassis, and stiff suspension mean it handles like a track bike, but that also means it punishes even minor errors. Despite having top-shelf Brembo brakes, advanced traction control, and electronic rider aids, this is still a machine that offers very little forgiveness. It is twitchy at the limit, unpredictable in poor road conditions, and far more motorcycle than most riders are prepared for. And if you wanted one of the only 44 units ever made, you needed to bring over $60,000 to the table, and even that didn't guarantee you'd get one. But you do not need to be an Italian race bike to be terrifying. Sometimes danger comes in the form of a dirt-slinging, torque-chucking beast that refuses to behave. Number 9. Maico Enduro 685. There are dirt bikes built for trails, dirt bikes built for jumps, and then there is the Enduro 685. This bike was built for chaos. It is one of the largest displacement two-stroke dirt bikes ever made, and it is infamous for one reason: too much power in a package that weighs less than some scooters. Underneath the frame sits a single-cylinder liquid-cooled engine producing over 82 horsepower and an eye-watering 60 pound-feet of torque, all from just 684 cubic centimeters. Now consider this: the dry weight of the bike is just under 255 pounds. That means every twist of the throttle is a gamble. Whether you are launching off a jump or just trying to get out of the pit, the Maico is constantly trying to throw the rider off. Its insane power-to-weight ratio means it wheelies without warning, spins the rear tire under throttle, and demands total throttle control every single second. The suspension is adjustable and includes long-travel inverted front forks and a high-performance rear monoshock, but even that cannot always keep this beast grounded. Land too hard or push too fast and you will find yourself airborne for the wrong reasons. Cornering on loose terrain? Good luck. The torque delivery is so abrupt that even experienced riders report uncontrollable slides and sudden high side. Top speed hovers just above 100 miles per hour, which might sound tame next to a superbike, but off-road, that is completely unhinged. Braking is handled by oversized wave rotors, front and rear, but stopping this thing on mud or gravel often feels like trying to put out a wildfire with a squirt gun. Fuel economy is low, just around 25 miles per gallon, and the tank holds barely over 2 gallons. If you could even find one, you'd be looking at close to $15,000 for the privilege of being terrified. The Maico Enduro 685 is not just dangerous, it is untamable. And if you think that was insane, wait until you see the next motorcycle that made danger its mission. Number 8. Suzuki TL00S Cyclone. Some motorcycles are dangerous because of sheer speed. Others are dangerous because of how unpredictable they are. But the Suzuki TL00S Cyclone, introduced in 1971, managed to be both. This motocross monster became infamous not for winning races, but for throwing riders off with violent aggression. It earned a nickname that says it all: the hand grenade. At the heart of this dirt-hungry machine was a 396 cubic centimeter air-cooled single-cylinder two-stroke engine. It cranked out roughly 40 horsepower with torque hitting about 34 pound-feet. Now that might not sound like a lot today, but how it delivered that power is where things went off the rails. The throttle response was brutally abrupt. Riders described it as an on-off switch. There was no smooth climb, just a violent surge that slammed power into the rear tire. One twist and you were either doing a wheelie, getting airborne, or hitting the ground. Weighing only about 220 pounds dry, the Cyclone was dangerously light for the kind of power it packed. That made the front end prone to lifting at the worst possible times, usually when riders were mid-jump or mid-corner, and the chassis didn't help. The frame flexed under pressure, pressure, and the suspension, though normal for its time, struggled to keep the bike planted on rough terrain. Rear shocks were notorious for bottoming out, especially during aggressive landings. Braking was handled by drum brakes both front and rear, which was standard in the early 70s. But on a bike this violent, that setup felt more like a polite suggestion than a command to stop. Fuel economy averaged around 23 miles per gallon, though no one bought the Cyclone to save gas. They bought it to win, or at least they thought they did until it broke them. Today, surviving examples can be found for around $4,000, often with scars and stories to match. But if that one was wild off-road, this next one didn't even need corners to kill. Number 7. Kawasaki H1 Mach III. There are bikes that demand respect, and then there's the Kawasaki H1 Mach III. Launched in 1969, this two-stroke nightmare earned a reputation before most riders even twisted the throttle. It wasn't just fast for its time, it was unpredictable, overpowered, and dangerously underbuilt. In a world where safety was an afterthought, the Mach III became a legend for all the wrong reasons. Powering this beast was a 499 cubic centimeter air-cooled two-stroke inline 3-cylinder engine. It produced 60 horsepower and about 37 pound-feet of torque. That kind of output in a bike that weighed only 384 pounds dry meant explosive speed, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. For the late 60s, that was rocket ship territory. But what really made it dangerous was how violently that power arrived. It didn't roll on. It slammed you. The torque hit like a punch in the chest, often lifting the front wheel with no warning at all. Handling, almost non-existent. The narrow frame flexed under pressure, especially in corners. The swing arm was basic, the suspension was primitive, and the ground clearance left riders scraping parts when they leaned in. And the brakes, a front and rear drum setup that barely slowed the chaos. At over 115 miles per hour top speed, this was a serious flaw, and one that left many riders with serious injuries. Fuel economy hovered around 26 miles per gallon, but let's be honest, no one cared. They weren't riding the Mach 3 to commute. They were riding it for the thrill, or maybe for the adrenaline shot of dodging disaster. These days, clean examples sell for around $7,000, though most buyers are chasing nostalgia, not lap times. But if the H1 was chaos on pavement, this next one brought a different kind of madness. Number 6. Kawasaki H2 Mach IV 750. In the early 1970s, motorcycle manufacturers were locked in a brutal horsepower war. But Kawasaki didn't just try to win, they decided to break the rules entirely. That decision gave birth to one of the most dangerous motorcycles ever unleashed on public roads, the Kawasaki H2 Mach IV 750. This bike wasn't just fast, it was feral. Built around a 746 cubic centimeter air-cooled inline 3-cylinder two-stroke engine, the H2 produced a wild 74 horsepower and 57 pound-feet of torque. At the time, those numbers were staggering for a lightweight machine that tipped the scales at just 454 pounds dry. But the danger wasn't in the specs. It was in the way they were delivered. The throttle on the H2 wasn't responsive, it was explosive. One twist and the front wheel would lift without warning, throwing unsuspecting riders into panic or straight off the bike. The power band was brutal, and there was no electronic safety net to catch you. No traction control, no anti-lock braking system, not even a stable chassis. In fact, the frame flexed under stress, especially when cornering at high speeds. The front forks often failed to keep the front planted, leading to serious instability and the dreaded high-speed wobble. Stopping this missile was another issue. A single front disc and a rear drum brake were expected to tame a motorcycle pushing 120 miles per hour. It didn't work. Braking distances were long and fade was common. Today, expect to pay at least $10,000 for a clean, unrestored example, if you can even find one. But believe it or not, the next bike makes this one look like a gentleman. Number 5. Brough Superior SS100. Before disc brakes, traction control, and modern suspension, there was the Brough Superior SS100. And in the lawless roads of the 1920s, it was a beast that terrified even the boldest riders. Known as the Rolls-Royce of motorcycles, the SS100 wasn't just a luxury icon, it was a death-defying speed machine. Built with a 1,000 cubic centimeter air-cooled V-twin engine, it produced 73 horsepower and 55 pound-feet of torque, a jaw-dropping output for a motorcycle in that era. What made the SS100 so dangerous wasn't just its raw speed, it was the lack of anything to control it. Tires were thin and made of primitive rubber. Brakes were rudimentary drum setups barely capable of slowing the bike down from triple-digit speeds. Roads were uneven, unpaved, and littered with hazards. There was no rear suspension. Riders had to hold on with brute strength and hope the bike didn't throw them into a ditch with the next bump. Even the promise of the SS100 was reckless. It was sold with a guarantee that it would reach 100 miles per hour or it wouldn't leave the factory. Weighing just over 390 pounds dry, it was nimble, but twitchy and prone to tank slappers at high speed. The lightweight chassis flexed under pressure, and riders frequently described the sensation of the bike writhing underneath them like it had a mind of its own. Today, an original model in pristine condition can sell for over $400,000 at auction, making it one of the most expensive and deadly vintage motorcycles ever built. This wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a dare on two wheels. But if Brough flirted with danger, the next machine sprinted straight into madness. Number 4. Harley Davidson Sportster S. At first glance, the Sportster S looks like a stripped-down stylish cruiser built for casual rides and weekend fun, but under its minimalist frame hides a performance beast that has shocked many riders into submission. Reintroduced in the early 2020s, the Sportster S was Harley-Davidson's attempt to modernize the legendary model by blending traditional aesthetics with high-octane performance. The result? A motorcycle that feels more like a sprinting racehorse than a laid-back boulevard cruiser. At the heart of the bike is the Revolution Max engine, a 1,253 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V-twin. It produces an astonishing 121 horsepower and 94 pound-feet of torque that is a level of output that pushes well into superbike territory. For older riders accustomed to Harley's slower, torque-heavy bikes, the throttle response can be downright shocking. This is not a motorcycle that eases you into its power, it punches. Weighing just over 502 pounds wet, the Sportster S is light by Harley standards. That makes the bike nimble, yes, but also twitchy. Its short wheelbase and aggressive throttle mapping often cause instability at high speeds, especially on uneven pavement. Combine that with a front tire wider than most cruisers, and you get a bike that wants to go straight far more than it wants to lean into curves. The suspension setup, while sporty, is not exactly forgiving. Inverted front forks and a rear monoshock provide a stiff ride, which can result in traction issues when hitting unexpected bumps mid-turn. Even braking feels like a compromise. A single front disc and rear disc with Brembo calipers provide decent stopping power. But on a bike this fast, many riders expect more. The price? Right around $16,000 depending on trim, putting it squarely in premium territory for a bike that still rides like it's figuring out what it wants to be. But the next bike wasn't hiding its madness. It wore it like a badge of honor. Number 3. Suzuki GSXR100. In the world of legendary superbikes, the GSXR100 stands as a cautionary tale. Introduced in the late 1980s and refined through the early 1990s, it promised sheer performance. But the price was control. Riders who underestimated this machine learned quickly that it could bite, and bite hard. At its core sat an 1,136 cubic centimeter air and oil-cooled inline four-cylinder engine, 145 horsepower and 85 pound-feet of torque that gave the GSXR100 the kind of acceleration that felt unrelenting, especially with its aggressive throttle curve. It didn't climb toward redline, it screamed there, violently and without hesitation. Weighing around 593 pounds wet, the GSXR was not particularly lightweight, but its engine more than compensated. Still, the chassis didn't always keep up. The frame was flexible by modern standards, which led to high-speed instability, particularly when cornering on uneven roads or during quick transitions. Add in the lack of modern electronic aids, no traction control, no anti-lock braking system, and every ride became a test of raw skill. The brakes consisted of dual front discs and a single rear disc, which were decent for the era, but far from confidence-inspiring under aggressive riding. Long stops, fading pressure, and uneven road feedback made emergency braking more of a gamble than a guarantee. Riders also had to wrestle with the ergonomics. The riding position was stretched and extreme, designed more for racing than comfort. Long rides turned into physical battles. But short bursts, those were exhilarating. You can still find one on the used market today for anywhere between $4,000 and $7,000, depending on condition. Just know, you're not buying a bike, you're buying a test of nerve. But if you thought this one was twitchy, you haven't seen what 8 cylinders can do. Number 2. Moto Guzzi V8. Back in the 1950s, most motorcycles followed a pretty simple formula: lightweight frames, single or twin-cylinder engines, and just enough performance to get the job done. But Moto Guzzi had other plans. What they created was one of the most ambitious and terrifying race bikes ever built, the Moto Guzzi V8. It was a machine that pushed the boundaries of engineering far beyond what riders were ready for. At the heart of this beast was a 500 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled V8 engine. Yes, you heard that right, 8 cylinders in a Grand Prix motorcycle. It produced around 78 horsepower and 35 pound-feet of torque, numbers that were astronomical for the time. The bike's dry weight was just under 325 pounds, giving it a power-to-weight ratio that made it feel more like a jet than a motorcycle, but with that power came a storm of problems. The V8 engine had to be revved aggressively to reach peak performance, and doing so required absolute precision. One mistake, one bad line, one twitchy throttle input, and the bike could go from hero to high side in a heartbeat. Riders often described it as feeling like the machine was trying to rip itself apart beneath them. Its top speed was rumored to exceed 170 miles per hour, but most riders never dared to find out. The tires of the time weren't made for that kind of speed. The drum brakes faded quickly, and the suspension, though advanced for the day, simply couldn't keep up with the engine's aggression. Even professional racers were hesitant to push it. Today, if one ever appears for sale, expect a price tag north of $2 million, if the seller is even willing to part with it. Now let's talk about a bike that didn't just push limits, it shattered them. Number 1. Kawasaki Ninja H2R. There are fast motorcycles. There are powerful motorcycles. And then there's the Kawasaki Ninja H2R. It is not just fast, it is forbidden. That's right, this bike is so extreme it is banned from public roads. And once you hear the specs, you'll understand why. At its core is a 998 cubic centimeter liquid-cooled inline 4-cylinder engine, but with a twist. It's supercharged. That alone sets it apart from almost every other production motorcycle on Earth. This monster produces 310 horsepower and 115 pound-feet of torque, and with a wet weight of just under 476 pounds, the power-to-weight ratio is absolutely unmatched. The Ninja H2R can accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 2.5 seconds. Top speed, over 240 miles per hour. That's not a typo. That's real-world performance that puts it in the same category as supercars and even light aircraft. The aerodynamic wings and carbon fiber bodywork aren't for show. They're necessary to keep the bike from lifting off the ground. Braking is handled by high-performance Brembo calipers with oversized dual front discs and a large rear disc, giving it the stopping power it desperately needs. But here's the catch. Even with the best brakes in the world, slowing down from over 200 miles per hour requires reflexes, skill, and courage that few riders possess. This is not a bike for the faint of heart. It's not for the average rider, and it's definitely not for public roads. The Ninja H2R is a track-only machine, a purebred performance weapon that redefines the word dangerous. It's a mechanical missile dressed like a motorcycle, and if you want to own one, prepare to spend at least $55,000 before you even get it on a track. So which one of these beasts would you be brave enough to ride, or would you keep both feet firmly on the ground? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world's most dangerous motorcycles, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications.